This is why me and my family are leaving Canada. And as a matter of fact, we've already left. 7 years ago, I had a pretty good job. I was working in the tech industry and I was dreaming about moving out of my small condo and moving and buying my first home. But in Canada, house prices were growing like an unstoppable cancer. When my parents were growing up, they spent about 4 times their annual salary on their house. And today, the average house price in Canada is 13 times the average salary. So to just buy a single family home, it's 10 times less affordable than it was in just a generation before me. Either Canada is in the biggest housing bubble of all time, or the government has printed so much money and devalued our currency so much that a single family home in Canada basically starts at $1 million. The housing market is so bad in Canada that there's a literal TikTok account that is fully dedicated to comparing rundown Canadian homes to European castles. And spoiler alert, the castles are much more affordable and in better shape than the Canadian homes. But that's not the only reason why we're choosing to leave Canada. In 2020, I got fired from my job. So I had to turn my side hustle into a full-time business to provide for me and my family. Because realistically, starting a business and becoming an entrepreneur is the only realistic way to increase your income in today's world. So if you want to achieve financial independence or at least just live a meaningful life in the way that you want, I kind of view entrepreneurship as the only possible solution. And I thought everything was going pretty well until an accounting mistake made me realize the true cost of how much tax we pay as small business owners in Canada. Now, I'm not against paying taxes, but I would consider paying 100% tax to be too much. So the question you have to ask is, where do you draw the line? Because realistically, over the long term, taxes go one direction. They go up. And the average Canadian on just income tax is paying almost 50% of their income to taxes. And when you're a small business owner, entrepreneur, you realize that so much of the money that you generate, more than that, is going to the government. So you have to ask yourself, what's your fair share? 10% of your income, 50%, 70%, 90%? But it gets way worse when your government is corrupt. And when you see them spending hundreds of millions of dollars to consulting companies that are owned by people working in government, instead of investing in things that we actually need, like roads and healthcare and more nurses, daycares and more infrastructure. And then they gaslight you with fancy headlines like $10 a day daycare. Because if you are a parent like me in Canada, you know that the cost of daycare is not what matters, because nobody can get into daycare. We started applying for daycares before my wife even got pregnant. And literally just last week, we got an email from one of the daycares we applied to. And this is 3 years later. And they said, do you want to be on our wait list still? You're number 175 in line. Our baby is almost 2 years old. We applied more than 3 years ago. It's a complete joke. Now, maybe I wouldn't mind paying taxes if we were able to get the services like a family doctor or get into daycare or be able to build a new hospital for every 1 million people that we bring into this country. But we don't. So I've moved on. We've followed other entrepreneurs like Kevin O'Leary and moved our business to the US. And now me and my family have moved out of our house. For now, we're going to be digital nomads. We spent this winter in Mexico and we're going this summer to Spain. And ironically, we're saving a lot of money by doing all of this traveling. Now, I am definitely very grateful to be Canadian and be living in Canada and be able to come back here to cottage country and spend time with my family. But for now, we're gonna go make our money in the US and we're gonna live wherever we want. Because until Canada can start delivering on the services that we're paying for, I refuse to pay them any more money. And if you want to see the dirty details on how I'm actually structuring this, from our corporation to where I'm paying taxes personally and declaring my own residency, you can watch this video up in the corner. which will answer all of those questions you might have. And if you're wondering how I, a Canadian citizen, opened up a Delaware LLC without even going to the US and without being a US citizen, then you can watch this video here where I walk you through step by step how Canadians and foreign citizens can create and own and operate US LLCs. The other thing is that the Canadian weather, it sucks. Right now it's June, there's so many bugs here, and it doesn't even get warm until like really mid-June or July, and then it's cold again 2 months later. And places like Spain and Mexico, they're like warm all year round. So the quality of life that we've been living as digital nomads is just so much higher in these foreign countries. The other thing that really surprised me is when we traveled to Mexico this winter and spent the winter there, I met more Canadian entrepreneurs in Mexico than I have in the past 3 years living in Canada. And I'm not alone. The number of Canadians that have moved to the US is at all-time highs. And the people who are moving to the US are typically the entrepreneurs who can, because most people who are working for a company already don't have that much flexibility in being able to move. So what do you think? Should me and my family permanently move out of Canada, give up our residency, or should we stay? Let me know in the comments.